Election 2020 still far from decided, from the presidency to which party will control the Senate. More talk of potential voter fraud with the vote counts in key states like Michigan. And a big win for pro-life representation in the House. These stories and more tonight on Faith Nation. And welcome to Faith Nation. I'm Heather Sells, in tonight for John Jessup and Jenna Browder. Well, tonight, the post-election struggle. The country marks its third day uncertain about who will serve as commander-in-chief for the next 4 years. Former Vice President Joe Biden is inching closer to the presidency as votes are still being counted in key battleground states. And CBN's White House correspondent Ben Kennedy joins us now with the latest. Ben.
Well, Heather, as we head into the weekend, neither candidate has the 270 Electoral College votes needed to win. At last check, according to the Associated Press, Biden stands at 264, Trump at 214. President Trump's lead of hundreds of thousands of votes on election night in Georgia and Pennsylvania is now gone, as Biden's ahead in both states. The last time Georgia voted blue was back in 1992 for Bill Clinton. Georgia's Secretary of State said today that they will likely head to a recount due to the small margin. Biden's team is calling for patience as all the votes are counted. But President Trump has gone on the offensive, pursuing legal action in a couple states, including Georgia, tweeting, "Where are the missing military ballots in Georgia? What happened to them?" Now, bottom line, if Biden wins Pennsylvania, it is over. He has enough votes to be the president-elect. Heather?
All right, Ben, thanks so much. And CBN's chief political analyst, David Brody, joins us now. David, it sounds like we are in for vote counting for several more days. And we're just waiting on David right now to join us and talk about the length here. We've got a definite wait for votes. David, thanks for joining us. As I was mentioning, we are vote counting right now, and it looks like several days. Talk about the timeline. When might we expect a clear winner?
Well, Heather, you said the word clear. So there's two different answers. There's a winner and, well, there's a loose winner and then there's a clear winner. I don't think we're having a clear winner, honestly, until late November, early December. I'll be honest with you. And that might be actually early. In terms of a winner, look, I have a feeling probably in the next 24 to 48 hours, possibly by the end of the weekend, we're going to have most likely Joe Biden, quote, go over the top, and I put it in air quotes, but go over the top with 270. What do I mean by that? It means that you're going to see either the Associated Press or Fox News or some other media outlet project him as the winner. Maybe all of them do. But the point is that these are media projections. They still have to be certified. The recount's going to happen in 3 of these states, at least, maybe 4. And then, of course, you got to recanvass, and then you've got to have it certified. So just because he's over the top at 270 doesn't necessarily mean he has won the election. Having said that, it is a political PR nightmare for the president if that's the case.
Right. Well, it's a political PR nightmare for both sides, I would think. I want to ask you about, there's all this conversation about stealing the election. There's so many ways this all could play out. But does this end up at the Supreme Court, in your view? Where does it kind of land at the end of the day?
Yes, I think it's going to end up at the Supreme Court. I'm at 95% on that. I haven't checked my latest calculation, but there's my latest calculation, 95%. And I think it's probably going to just go through Pennsylvania. You know, this idea that poll watchers were not there at certain points of vote counting. And so the Trump administration, the Trump campaign is going to argue that was unfair. They're going to probably argue unequal protection because there were certain ballots that were being cured, in other words, fixed in Philadelphia and other places, but that wasn't done at all in some other counties in Pennsylvania. So that'll be the unequal protection argument. And I think that's probably their strongest argument. And that's my analysis of it, but it's based on talking to many legal experts who think Pennsylvania is their best shot.
All right. And we have reports that Joe Biden will give a speech during prime time tonight. What do we know about that?
Well, this is a drumbeat speech. And what do I mean by that? We've heard Joe Biden the last 2 days, and this will be the third day in a row where we hear the drumbeat as he talks about, let the vote be counted and let's get ready, America. We're going to heal as a nation. He's trying to show himself as the president of the United States, even though he can't say I'm president-elect of the United States. And I think that's really what it is. I don't want to say it's more for show, but it's definitely, there's definitely a political PR portion to all of this, and you'll see that in prime time tonight.
All right, very good. David Brody, we'll be talking with you later. Thanks for your time now.
You bet.
Well, should Joe Biden win, the ambitions of his presidency could well come down to Georgia. Nationally, the Senate stands at 48-48, but Republicans lead uncalled races in Alaska and North Carolina. And Georgia, a Republican stronghold, appears headed to a January 5th runoff. Georgia law requires an outright majority to win a statewide office. Votes are still being counted between Democratic Senate hopeful Jon Ossoff and Republican Senator David Perdue in a second round. Separately, a second runoff could also happen between Democrat Raphael Warnock and Republican Senator Kelly Loeffler. Both sides could end up paying out tens of millions of dollars for these two runoffs. Well, we are joined now by Pastor Sam Rodriguez, the president of the National Hispanic Christian Leadership Conference, which oversees more than 40,000 churches. And Pastor Sam, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You have been watching this election closely, I know, as well. And first of all, your thoughts on the Latino evangelical vote. What do you make of how people voted, and especially Latino males apparently voting stronger for the president this time around?
Tipping point, historic. Listen, at the end of the day, if POTUS does not get reelected, and with an asterisk, this will be the election with the asterisk on it for multiple reasons. If that doesn't happen, here's what I see. I see that America embraced the message of life, religious liberty, and no to socialism. That's what America did. You go deep into the weeds, and you see this incredible surge of the Latino community, primarily in Florida, Texas, but across the nation. Right now, here's the floor. 36% of Latinos supported President Trump. That's the floor. Another estimate has it at 38%. That's 10 percentage points better than 2016. What does this mean? It's a historic moment for the American electorate. The pro-life, pro-religious liberty, limited government, no to socialism constituency put an engagement ring on the Latino community. We're not married, but we're no longer flirting. And the Latino community just emerged as America's vaccine against the virus of socialism and late-term abortion. So what do I see? I see an acceptance of the message and a possible narrow rejection of the messenger. So right now, the pro-life, the pro-religious liberty, the limited government movement in America should not be depressed. We should actually be celebrating in spite of what may happen in Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yeah, fascinating. Definitely not a blue wave. I do want to ask you, though, if indeed we have a Biden presidency, what does that mean for Latino evangelicals, many of whom, you're just saying did not vote for him?
Yeah, it means that we hope and pray that a President Biden will continue to live out, or better yet, actually live out, execute the words that he articulated right before the election. I am not a socialist. I am not a radical. Well, we want to see that now come to play. If we see a President Biden sway away from the radical late-term abortion, post-birth abortion dependency, obsession of the new Democratic Party, then he's going to have Latino evangelicals say, we're going to, you know what, Mr. President, we're out there with the possibility of supporting many of your policies. But if President Biden drinks the hard left Kool-Aid, you're going to see Latino evangelicals mobilized like never before, just like we did in Florida and Texas. And you're going to see that 36% become 44, 50% 2 years from now, midterms, and definitely 4 years from now. Listen, the Republican Party right now, from a political standpoint, is bruised, but the Democratic Party is bleeding. The Republican Party has a black and blue because they may lose the White House, but the Democratic Party is bleeding because without the Latino vote, there is no future for the Democratic Party. So Dorothy, we're not in Kansas anymore. It's a new day indeed.
Pastor Sam, really appreciate your thoughts on the election, and I do want to just pivot slightly and ask you about COVID. Obviously, we're heading into winter here. The Hispanic community has been disproportionately affected. What are your concerns?
Hey, Heather, as someone whose family has been directly impacted by COVID, from the get-go, I have encouraged Latinos and Americans, for that matter, to wear masks. I'm a faith and science guy, both and not either or. So I encourage everyone, please wear your mask. I don't believe in perpetual lockdowns either. I believe we can do better. We can wear masks, social distancing, and likewise, we can open up the economy. We should protect the most vulnerable, indeed, but we can do both things. So this COVID thing is very real, firsthand experience. But by the grace of God, here we are. Let's be very cautious. Let's not be presumptuous. And let's make sure we protect the most vulnerable amongst us.
All right, Pastor Sam Rodriguez, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Well, tonight, many are still questioning the integrity of that Michigan election, and this after a Michigan Court of Claims judge dismissed a Trump campaign lawsuit there. Michigan and its 16 electoral votes went to Democrat Joe Biden Wednesday as he narrowly edged out President Trump there. Biden rose to victory as mail-in ballots were counted. The Trump campaign filed a lawsuit claiming Democrats mishandled absentee ballots and that Republicans didn't have fair access to the counting process. A judge dismissed that, saying there was meaningful access. But the president of the Republican Women's Federation of Michigan told CBN News she is still concerned about massive election fraud statewide.
Multiple stories, multiple reports, eyewitness reports of Republican attorneys who are official poll challengers being pulled out by security simply for asking for the ballot tally. Another one was another attorney was removed. He said he moved his mask down just long enough to breathe and put it back up. And there was a woman who identified herself as being from Homeland Security but would not give her name. And she ordered the officers to then pull him out.
Many of the concerns revolve around Wayne County. That is the largest county in Michigan. Coming up, pro-life victories are adding up in this election as the number of pro-life women double in Congress. So what does this mean for the unborn? We'll break it down next.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel, now available at cbnradio.com.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
I think as a father, it's my job, to lead, just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
As votes continue to be tallied to determine who will be president, at least 14 races have been called in favor of pro-life women representatives. 7 of those women flipped Democrat-held seats in the House, while 11 current pro-life females won re-election. The victory doubles the number of women pro-life members in the House, and it signals a major shift. Marjorie Dannenfelser, the president at Susan B. Anthony list, called the victory a stunning blow to Nancy Pelosi and her pro-abortion agenda. Joining us now to talk about what this means for the pro-life agenda is Prudence Robertson with the Susan B. Anthony list. Prudence, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
So you're celebrating record numbers of pro-life women elected this year in Congress. Why this year, and what do you attribute their success to?
We attribute their success to the fact that life is winning in America, and regardless of the uncertainty in the presidential election, it's clear to see that life is not a losing issue this year, especially because we see an unprecedented number of pro-life women being elected to Congress. And this is a diverse group of women who will no doubt stand up for the unborn. They come from various backgrounds. We have Maria Salazar, who was one of our endorsed candidates. She's a Cuban-American woman who understands the right to life. We have Yvette Harrell in New Mexico, who was newly elected. She is the first woman from the Cherokee Nation to be elected to Congress for the Republican Party. And we also have proven pro-life leaders like Michelle Fischbach being elected, who has served in the state Senate in Minnesota and advanced legislation to protect babies from late-term abortion. And the fact that we have so many women, literally, like you said, doubled the number of pro-life women in the House. This is the first time and that we've seen such a large number, and they're going to serve as a barricade against Nancy Pelosi's radical pro-abortion agenda.
Well, let me ask you a little bit about that, if I may. Talk more about what does this mean in terms of setting the agenda in the House. Obviously, Democrats still control the House, but how might they impact what does and does not happen on the abortion front?
You know, the fact that there are so many of them now really serves to protect the nation and the Senate from having pro-abortion legislation really infiltrate and get through. The radical extremism that Pelosi Democrats and the radical abortion lobby are working together to try to advance is late-term abortion through the moment of birth, paid for by American taxpayers that are pro-life. And the fact that these women will be able to not only vote for pro-life policies, but really be outspoken leaders on the issue, it's going to make waves.
All right, and I want to ask you, too, about what happened at the state level, because I know you saw pro-life gains in state houses in key battleground states. What's the significance of that, and how could it, again, help advance pro-life agendas?
That's right. Absolutely. We saw a lot of great wins on the state level, and that's so important because it's state policy that's going to challenge the extreme precedent that Roe v. Wade sets, which is across the board nationally, late-term abortion through the moment of birth. In Texas, we saw an amazing victory. We protected 18 pro-life legislative seats in the state house, and we also saw 3 very strong congressional pro-life candidates win astounding victories. And it really is just so important to promote these candidates on the state level. And we're so glad to see that the pro-life movement and our strong canvassing team was able to reach across the nation over 8 million voters to speak to them and highlight the importance of defending unborn children against the extremism of abortion and really turn the tide and continue to pass pro-life laws.
All right, Prudence Robertson with the Susan B. Anthony list. We're out of time, but thank you for your time.
Thanks so much.
Up next, a closer look at the big stories of the day. Please stay with us.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5, Wednesday night at 9:30.
Tikkun Olam.
This is our nature as a country.
To make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life, how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone.
I was in tears.
Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, but it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com to get your copy today.
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
Well, we're back here on Faith Nation. I'm joined by CBN Chief Political Analyst David Brody and Julia Manchester of The Hill. Thanks for joining us. I know we're all tired. It's been quite a week. Let me ask both of you, though, the main question that I have for both of you, a lot of pollsters, a lot of Democrats saw a big blue wave coming. Instead, we've got an extremely close race. And besides concerns about polling, what is your takeaway from the fact that this is what we're dealing with? Julia, go ahead.
Retake control of the Senate. However, we will see if they do in January with the two Georgia races heading into a runoff. And at the House level, I mean, the GOP gained seats. Now, it should be noted that Democrats obviously contained their majority. However, the Republicans did well. And I think it was particularly a good night for Republican women. You know, 2 years ago, the narrative around the 2018 election was this blue wave of Democratic women. But 2 years later, we see it on a much smaller scale with Republican women, and that achievement of theirs should not be overshadowed. Now, at the presidential level, yes, polling showed Joe Biden with a much bigger landslide over President Trump. And I think President Trump's campaign did a pretty good job at getting their voters to turn out and reaching out to voters in a number of communities, namely in Florida, where they really reached out to that Cuban American vote that tends to vote conservative. However, it's also worth noting that there is no other presidential candidate in history who has gotten as many votes as Joe Biden has.
All right. And David, your take on the lack of the blue wave.
Well, there's so much to talk about here. I mean, let's be honest. If we could just take a step back, Donald Trump, win or lose, at this point, it's looking more like a loss. But either way, he's legend. I mean, the guy overperformed. He had the rallies of lifetimes there in the last, whatever it was, 10 days or 2 weeks. And you know, there was no blue wave. And so, you know, if he's going to leave after one term, unlike a George H.W. Bush, who, you know, it was a little bit, it was rough for him at that time, this isn't much different. I mean, you know, Trump is going to leave even more powerful, actually. He's going to be a huge figure going forward, even talk about him possibly running again in 4 years. So, you know, it's very different than George H.W. Bush. And, you know, as for the blue wave, just never materialized. And honestly, the pollsters and the media members that support these polls really have a bunch of egg on their face for many, many years.
Right. Well, and that's really not good news for any of us. Julia, maybe just briefly pick up on this concern over polling. What does this mean, the fact that these pollsters were so off and people were perhaps even voting based on what they thought the polls were saying?
Yeah, I mean, look, we thought that a lot of pollsters would have really gotten it together and maybe changed some of their methods, in the 4 years after 2016. And maybe they did to a certain extent. However, this was predicted to be a much bigger landslide than we thought, than it really is now, especially, and I cover a lot of House and Senate races, and I can't emphasize how much that applies there as well. And also, on the note about the House and Senate races, I think one thing this election has taught us is that a lot of us in the media, a lot of pollsters maybe even, also overlook the idea of a ticket splitter. So in a lot of these races, I'm going to look at, the first congressional district in Nebraska, for example, that has one electoral vote up for grabs. Joe Biden won that race. And I think you saw Kara Eastman, the progressive Democrat, running in that race thinking, okay, I can almost, be helped by a Democrat at the top of the ticket. And a lot of other Democrats running in congressional races felt the same way. However, a lot of voters went into the ballot and they might have voted for Joe Biden, but then they voted for Republicans down the ballot. So I think that's something we need to be aware of going into other elections.
Oh, fascinating political dynamics there. Thanks to both of you for your time and all your work this week.
You bet.
Coming up, a new Christmas album is inspiring hope in difficult times. That's next.
It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
Watch On the Home Front today at 2:30. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Finally, tonight, as Christmas albums are being released, one album debuted on the iTunes holiday chart at #1. Grammy award-winning Christian artists for King and Country released their first full-length Christmas album last week called A Drummer Boy Christmas. The brothers shared their hope that singing about the birth of the Savior will inspire people to tune to something more everlasting than current events. That's going to do it for us. Thanks for joining us.